everyone. We're back again with 4 Women in a Funeral. I'd really like to welcome our 4 women. Lisa Bowie here with Funeral Women Lead, Elisa Carr with Kelco, and we have, of course, Ellen McBray with her funeral home company in Georgia, and, of course, the newest secretary elected to NFDA. We're so excited to have you. And Melissa Posey-Luce with Security National Life. So welcome, ladies. We're back.
Hey!
Yay. Big round of applause for Ellen, by the way. Top campaign. Great job. We're so excited. Woman in Leadership at NFDA. We're going to talk about leadership today because I think it's a very important topic. And at Funeral Women Lead, we have a leadership academy we're starting. It's going to kick off this November. You arrive on the 16th, and it kicks off with a one-day in-person event on the 17th of November. You'll be spending some time with the Dean of our Leadership Academy, Kristen Ernst. And Kristen is amazing. She runs her own counseling and coaching center. She's been working with women and women leaders and some of their challenges, I would say, because we all have them, right? And Kristen mentors and coaches women. So please join us. Go to our website, funeralwomenlead.org, and go to the events page and learn more about the Women's Leadership Academy. It's a full year program, one time in person this November, online the rest of the time, and then coming back to graduate the following November. And it shows up right before our Wellness Summit, so we'd love for you to stay and spend time with us working on wellness because we all need that. So speaking of wellness, part of what we do as women leaders is work on that. And we'll talk about that maybe in our next session, but let's talk about leadership because it's coming fresh off the election with NFDA, National Funeral Directors Association, where the first time in its history since 1897, maybe? I'm guessing here. We should probably get that date down, Ellen. They've had 7 women serve on the board. And this is the first time a woman has been elected to go up the chairs in leadership, and that woman is Ellen McBray. And we're just super excited to have her with us today and part of our feud for Women in a Funeral. So, Ellen, what does it take to become a leader in NFDA? How do you get there? You know, that seems like a lot of work. I mean, do we have time for this? You're a mom, you're a wife, you're busy running a funeral home and cemetery company. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so first of all, I'll start with 1882 is when the NFDA started. We'll start with the date. So 1882.
There you go.
You know, leadership, I feel like leadership finds you as a person. I feel like if you wake up and you're like, I'm chosen to be a leader, that's probably not the best start. I feel like leadership finds you. It's just been something that has been a dream of mine for a long time, to just be surrounded with really smart people around a table that are ready to help support funeral directors in different states and different regions, and really just to, you know, so the start of my journey started, you know, when my father passed away. My first goal was to get out of Auburn University. I graduated there. When I started in funeral service, I just sought out ways to serve with the NFDA, and serving on committees is where I started, and just continuing each year from then, and served on so many different committees just to really grow my knowledge and skill sets to be able to know what NFDA is truly. You know, and I think sitting around the computer at night and being like, ooh, what are more NFDA benefits? You know, and I would just go on there and just search the website for just different ways to help support our staff and our team as a small business. You know, I think that's where you start when you are busy and you have, you know, I heard one of my mentors one time, he said, you know, when you have so much to do, it's not that you can't do everything, because you probably have the skill sets to do more than you can, but you have to decide what to outsource and who to outsource it to. And NFDA offers so many of those tools. So I would sit around when I was, you know, very young in funeral service and just look for ways to help make our workload easier at the funeral home by using resources from the NFDA.
Yeah, and you're reading their magazine now, so let's clarify this. There was nothing online. So I used to sit at the front desk.
Back then,
and I would open up the NFDA Director magazine, and I'd just read every article that was in there. And serving on committees, though, that takes some courage to do that, because don't you think some people would think, gosh, you know, this sounds like a lot of time. Do I have time to serve on a committee? Tell us a little bit more about serving on committees. How do you get there? If you're a funeral director, wherever you are in your career journey and you want to give back a little bit to your profession, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so now you can go on and fill out a survey on the website, and ask to be submitted for a committee. Back when I was coming up, it was networking and just finding the right person to talk to and say, hey, I would love to do this, or it is intimidating, or get somebody that believes in you. Actually, the way I started serving was, Valerie Wages grabbed me at a convention and said, hey, you need to put her on a committee. She loves Pursuit of Excellence. She's ready to serve. And, it's really just, the networking, or listening to this podcast, or going to the Leadership Summit, and really connecting, and leadership will find you. Just like that day, Valerie grabbed me and said, hey, she would be a good candidate for a committee. Leadership, when you go to these events and network and get to know people, they see things and qualities in you that are leadership that you probably don't see for yourself. So it's really, it is about the funeral service family. I say that a lot, the NFTA family, the funeral service family. There's nothing like it.
That's cool. And state associations have committees too, right? So there's ways to contact your state association. Maybe start there. Start in your own state, see if there's a committee that has interest to you. I mean, tell us a little bit more about what are all these committees? Like, what do they do, and kind of what are the topics? I remember as a young funeral director sitting on a committee that was about the legal laws, and I thought, I know nothing about laws, nothing. But we put together a whole new law because I got tired of people cutting in procession. Into our processions, right? And there was no anything that would hold up that said, no, you can't do that. And we actually got it to go on the driver's testing area, where you took that as part of your test. You knew you couldn't cut into a funeral procession. And that was hard to get through the state, and getting it all the way through the legislative process. So anybody else have experiences of serving on committees and funeral service they want to share?
I do with Funeral Service Foundation. I really enjoyed my time on one of the committees there, and it was so exciting to be a part of a group. And I think, Ellen, you've articulated this to me before, just doing something that makes such an impact on so many people. I was privileged to be a part of When a Child Dies, the booklet. If you haven't seen it, I love that resource. Used it numerous times. Yeah, youth and funerals, and getting the word out about that. It's just fantastic. And not only being a part of creating that, but getting to meet the people that are from around the country. I mean, I remember I met so many people doing that. It was such a growth opportunity for me professionally and personally, and I loved it. So yeah, and I have to also say one more thing about NFDA. Leslie Witter, I credit her with my love of advocacy. She told me one time, when my very first professional women's conference I ever attended as a funeral director, and I remember just walking in there and thinking, gosh, I don't know anybody, and she came right up to me and she made me feel like I was the most important person in the room, and she could tell I was interested in the topics we were talking about. And some of them were legislative type things, and she opened the door for learning more about that. And so serving can not only benefit your firm or your company or whomever you're with, but you've got that personal element too that grows you, and you've got to have that personal and professional bandwidth as a leader. And I think serving really gives you the opportunity to do that.
I think you're so right. Lisa, how about you? Exactly. You've served on a couple of committees in funeral service. How did they help you become a better leader?
I have. I guess my first experience would have been serving on committees with the Children's Grief Connection, the Minnesota organization for children's grief, and the family camps that they put on. So I initially started with their marketing committee and also the Frunge committee. So that's where my love for we can't call it a polar plunge, but the Frunge, as we called it, sort of began because I was part of that planning process, and it kind of grew and grew, and eventually I was invited to join their board and served on that board for 10 years actually before terming out, basically.
That's really cool. Are you still jumping in that cold water? That's what I want to know.
I want to know about that.
I have not jumped
being a leader, you got to be courageous,
yes,
right?
I
so
know, yep.
Tell us about this frungy plungy thing you guys do.
Yeah. Well,
it's
the organization
cold.
now is called Healing Hearts Connection, and they're still doing it. We're probably 17 years in now. I have not done it for the last 2 years. Commitments that I had on my calendar with my kids and different stuff. got in that way, and I've chosen to prioritize things in that way. Now that I said, we can just leave this to the young guys, right? My husband at one point, had a bit of a scare in water, and he said he'll literally, when he got pulled out of the water, he said, I'm never jumping in that lake again. Like that,
gosh.
it gave him a flashback to that event, and it wasn't even that event. So he's been out for a while, and we would come and bring the bus and have this big, I guess, presence. We'd have like 20 to 30 people on our bus, and the video cameras would be waiting for us there. So it created a bit of a stir and some excitement around the event and all that kind of stuff. So
That's cool.
it's still fun, yeah.
So you continued to help grow this thing and had a bus and brought all these people and all your staff as well. And that's really cool.
Yep.
So, but what did you learn the whole time you served on that committee? I mean, what kind of leadership gifts did you get? Little takeaways as you've been. Think about that, ladies. That part of volunteering takes courage to jump in. It takes a little time. You do have to give some time of yourself to serve on these committees and come up with ideas and maybe be part of a volunteer group. But really, what gift do you feel in your leadership growth and journey it has given you to serve on these committees?
I would say connection. I mean, being engaged in things that get people excited and, having to be a part of that keeps you interested, keeps you in the profession and really understanding who is working with you, who's working alongside of you, towards whatever goal we're looking for.
Right.
So
I think that's
connection
good.
for
What about
me.
you, Ellen? What have you learned? All these committees you served on at NFTA over the years. What kind of gifts has that given you as a growing leader?
My favorite part is it's like a puzzle. You may have the perfect puzzle piece. It may not fit in the area you think it fits in. And to work with a group, or you could, since we're, 4 women in a funeral, you could talk about an autopsy, being able to put autopsy back together, bringing all the pieces together. And it may look a little different than, the puzzle in your mind, but to pull a good idea and pull everybody's idea together and the creativity to be able to make it all work and be even better than what you could have imagined. That's the beauty of a committee, is really being able to, to join together and have enough confidence while you're kind of maybe overwhelmed to listen to somebody else's idea and just kind of patiently wait and then say, hey, is starting to come together and be able to form it all in this beautiful masterpiece that's better for everybody than what one person could have imagined. That's my favorite part of working as a team and on a committee.
The puzzle's not whole without all the pieces.
It's not all the
that's
pieces.
correct,
So,
yeah,
so a
without
couple
all the
things. So in leadership, then you want to be a good listener while you're serving on a committee. At the same time, you do have to speak up a little bit. Otherwise, your ideas that you might have may not be heard. But allowing others to speak and listening to their ideas and then trying to bring some of yours in there. I think that's a good sign of leadership. That's a good training for leadership.
And I'll use you as an example, Lisa. You're very good at if you think about sitting at the table, the silent person may be the strongest leader at a table. They just may not speak up. But Lisa, your natural skill set is you call names and you ask everybody and you pull out these beautiful things from everybody. And so that's a beauty of leading a committee. So if you're a committee chair, those are the beauties of when you have a strong leader. The leader or the chair committee really can pull out by calling names, making sure you go around the table to really get everybody's opinion, because the strongest person at the table might always be the quietest.
Yeah, you're right. You're so
That was
right.
very nice.
Yeah, that was really
I don't
nice of what
consider
you said.
myself the loudest voice in the room either, but I'd like to sit back and I do like to listen, and I feel like that's what one of my greatest traits as a leader is to really gather opinions and get different perceptions, and ultimately if the decision falls on me, it does, but I've had input from others around me, so that's important.
Yeah, I would say looking at all three of you, y'all all three have that skill set. Y'all really, I've watched each of y'all work a room, and y'all can find ways to pull out just
girls.
beautiful stuff. Well, yeah, you can work it.
Well, you learn so much. I think that's part of leadership learning, is you learn so much from others. I've served on, as we all have, many boards through the years and committees and so forth, both locally, regionally, and nationally. And what I've always found that has been a leadership gift to me is just the learning of watching some of these top leaders in the country. When I was a young funeral director, I was sitting there with one of the guys who was head of SCI, one of the guys that was head of Batesville Casket Company, one of the guys who was head of Wilbert Vault, I thought, oh, wow. I felt like teeny weeny tiny. And at the same time, I was learning so much from them in the way they handled themselves. And even though they were men, let's face it, there weren't any women back then, right? But how they handled themselves was a good learning tool for me. That was a gift I think that they all gave, is didn't even know they were doing it for this little young funeral director from Little St. Charles, Missouri. So
Yeah, and sometimes you learn how you don't want to be.
yeah. Okay, let's talk about
That's
bad
true, too.
leadership on committees.
That's true.
Can we?
Well, I do have before we go to the bad leadership, I've got a story about, I was in my 20s and I was speaking of being overwhelmed on this committee. It was a spokesperson training committee for the NFDA, and there were all of these board members on this spokesperson, and I'm in my 20s. And storytelling is a big thing. People love stories, right? So the media lady was just asking the hardest questions, and we were training, right? It was behind the scenes, but it was on film. And they asked me the hardest question. I was sweating. I was like, I don't know how to answer this. I'm intimidated because all of these I'm such respect for all these people and leaders in the room. And I answered from my heart. And I really didn't answer the question because I didn't know what to answer, right? I was like, I'm out of my element. I'm nervous. But I answered it with this beautiful story from the heart. And this one gentleman looked at me and he was like, that was a great answer. And I looked over and I was like, but I didn't really answer it, did I? And he goes, no, you didn't. But everybody loved the story. I just distracted them. So if you're confident, that's right. If you're confident, you tell a good story, right? Just fake it sometimes, right?
I think that's a great example of leadership right there, especially if you're, I did this NFDA training with the camera in your face and stuff, because I did that national spokesperson thing one time, and it was really scary, and you're standing there with the camera and they're asking you really hard questions, but when you tell a story and you don't really answer their question, you actually get your information out better. I think that's awesome, Ellen. What about you, Melissa?
Wait, hold on. Are you saying then maybe that in saying what you just said, is that one way you can kind of lead your own team? If you get stuck with some bad situation, you don't know how to handle it, just revert to a story?
Yeah.
Just revert to a story.
That's right. It's brilliant. It's
Take it back to what you know.
Teach a lesson even if it's a different lesson than needed. So.
I think that's awesome. I think so. Okay, so
and a good segue into bad leadership, probably.
Yeah,
we were talking.
So, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about that. That wouldn't be nice because we've all been on these committees, but I think it takes the courage to get on them first to start off with. And we've got some challenges. I think women are out and about. They're 75% graduating from mortuary school. They're working hard. They might be young women getting started in their life. They might be getting married. They might be having children. But we're not seeing as many on the national stage. We're not seeing them on the local state stage. There's a few women that have come up in the state association ranks and a few women that have only seven in NFDA. I was talking to ICCFA most recently. They've had 4 women as their board chair or their president, and NFDA has had 0. Selected has had 2. And OGR, I'd have to go back and do my count, but I think they've had 2 or 3 women serve on the national board. So what do you think is keeping all these talented women we know are out there from either staying in our profession or rising up within our profession and starting to volunteer and get more involved in leadership committees and organizations like you have been, Ellen? And I've done a little bit of it in the past, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of time commitment. So how do we help them, and what does it take to help these women stay in and rise?
I've heard a lot of women say, I want to do this. I'm ready to do this. I don't know how to do it or where to do it. Like, how do I even start and get involved? I think that's a big challenge in itself. Yes, we have, I always say I'm a hat rack. I wear lots of hats, and I'm taking them off constantly. But I think there are a lot of women that are there and ready. They just don't realize what they need to do and how to get involved. So I think that could be a big hurdle. I don't have all the evidence, but I've just had a lot of people say that to me. What do I need to do? So I think that's a start. And I'm excited because I know Funeral Women Lead, we're trying to create an opportunity to get the word out about all kinds of different opportunities. So I'm excited to do that.
So Ellen, advice. Give them some advice on how to get more involved. And Elisa, you go next.
So, I think the beauty of like it looking at the big picture, I think Melissa's right when she says people don't know how. I think people also wait for permission, like until someone says, I want you on here, like an invitation. But the invitation's there if it's already in your heart to do it. I don't think you're ever ready in your own heart to be a leader. I think it's something that you have to analyze and grow your skill set, which means start on committees. Start by going to your summit, your wellness summit and your leadership training. I love the platform that you're starting because that's the invitation I think people need to say, hey, let's draw you in. Let's do this. We can do this together. Believe in yourself. I think there's from what I've heard out there are some challenges with different industry. Like what I mean by like industries, like small businesses. Maybe they don't have enough staffing for somebody to go away a lot, or corporate. They may not know who to ask to get the support they need. They may not feel like they have the support. So my answer is be an advocate. Ask your teams, can I be a leader? Can I do this? I would like to. It will. And then I think there's a fear there sometimes from the leadership. I feel like when I hear these stories at different state conventions, my advice to individual different settings is go and ask. Explain to your leaders that this will help your actual firm. It will grow your skill set. You'll be able to bring stuff back that will help you be a better leader in your own funeral home. And so, I think there's a lot of fear there on different sides to just go ahead and take that step. So I think the Wellness Summit, I think, chiming in on this podcast, asking questions, send any of us a private message asking us, how can I be a leader? What committee would you recommend? These are my skill sets. So I think just taking the step to ask the right people. So if you're listening to this, my first recommendation is to chime in, sign up for, the Funeral Women Lead, sign up for those emails. And then when you see something that hits you, go for it, right? And then ask for permission later.
I think all of those are all great tips. How about you, Elisa? Any ideas, thoughts?
That was exactly what I was going to say, not in those exact words, but basically, at some point.
Or that exact accent, right?
Yeah.
Because you're from the north and she's from the south.
Midwestern up here, yeah.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. I just got back from the Great Lakes and everybody's, oh, yeah. They all sound like Canadians up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's right. How many times did I say y'all? Did I say
Did anybody keep track? I don't know. Maybe. We say y'all in Missouri.
I really feel like, no matter how engaged or disengaged they are, they have to take responsibility for their own, whatever's happening, whether they want to be more engaged or what within their firms, within other associations, committees. But first of all, they have to be curious. And if they're listening to this podcast, they are, give them reasons to move forward with things. And that's exactly what Funeral Women Lead is doing, right? But maybe mentor someone show up in areas, to help without being asked, ask questions, be curious, and try to help somebody maybe that started after you or is a step behind you in your schooling or whatnot, and let people see that, right? And then they may be asked or invited to other opportunities. But if they're just sitting back waiting for someone else to invite them to something, that might never come. So
you're absolutely
advocate
right.
for yourself.
You do have to step in it sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you step in a big pile of it and you don't know what you really got yourself into.
Then you learn. Then you move on.
Yeah. Right. And so ask your manager, maybe ask the owner, what associations do you belong to? And if it's a state or a national association, there's always volunteer opportunities. I know here at Funeral Women Lead, one of the things we're going to be doing is expanding into committees in 26 and really getting some fun committees ready to go. So if you're interested in being a volunteer there, stay in touch with us. Let us know your interest. Just go on and you can go to info@funeralwomenlead.com and let us know your interest. And you know what we could do? I'm just thinking out loud here, but what if we found a way on our resource center to put up volunteer opportunities?
Yeah.
So if NFDA has some things going on that they need some help, the Funeral Service Foundation is always looking for volunteers to help score all the scholarships that they give out and we give out, because I'm still on their board right now. And it's really fun to see all the applications come in. And that's a good way to get started, is to volunteer for some of these non-for-profit organizations as well.
That's a good idea.
If not your own associations. Yeah.
And Lisa, too, I want to say I'd love to. I think we should invite people that are outside, a little bit on the edge of our profession, but still are very much partners with us, like people in the grief communities, hospice. There's some other things that might really resonate besides our national. I don't know how we can break that down, but I think there's so many different things that we could do that would improve the level of service that we give, that would improve us professionally and personally. So I love that idea.
I do. Boy, I'm glad we thought of that. So all these nonprofits that we try to support are where we're working, especially you, Elisa, you have that one group that you've been part of for 10 years. I mean, there's volunteer opportunities, and a lot of them can be online, where you can serve on a committee now, right? You don't have to actually be on site and present. And jumping into that cold water in northern Minnesota, it was
Although
cold.
I'd like to see a picture from that. I think that would be really cool.
It
I mean,
would.
like
Okay.
Vaseline
I've
and all to keep
I got 10
warm.
years worth.
There we go.
And-
Well, ladies, it's time for us to sign off on this podcast on leadership. But once again, a round of applause for Ellen McBrayer.
Thank you.
Hey.
Ellen.
And now that
Thank
you
you.
are secretary, getting installed this fall at NFDA, right, in Chicago, then the next year you'll be treasurer, and the next year you'll be president-elect, and then next year you'll be president. So it's because of the bylaws, you've already won to go up the chairs, and we'll have our first woman president in 4 years, and we're just thrilled to
Okay,
that. So.
but let's not leave that at. Ellen.
Oh,
is
got to be more. We have to have more.
Right. Get on those committees. Get the courage to run. Talk to Ellen. She'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah, and yes, do talk to Ellen. And Ellen, share your email address with everybody so we have it. You just gave us a new one today.
Yes, it's ellen-nfda@jones-win.net. Our funeral home name is Jones Win, so it's jones-win.net. Or you can find me on Facebook, Ellen Win McBrayer for NFDA, or you can just call Jones Win Funeral Home and ask, for my contact, my email that way. So.
Right. And if you can't understand any of that because of the deep Southern accent, I'm just going to call us.
Not that.
Get a hold of us. And no, it's not
It's
that
not
bad. It's not that bad. I'm kind of in between Minnesota and Georgia. I'm stuck in the middle. And Melissa, you're way out in Utah, so you have hardly any accent now.
You don't.
It's all
That
been
is
neutralized.
Not what I've been told.
I need you to
No,
translate.
you
for
still
me.
have,
she
you
does,
still have
yeah.
that Southern. I think so too. Hey, great to be with you, and everyone have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your summer. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you for
Thank
Women
you.
and a Funeral. Love you, ladies.